Good evening, everybody. Did everybody have a chance to sign in the back? If you are a resident of the town of Waukesha? I've got 7:01, and I'd like to just tell you the course of events tonight. We have 3 separate meetings. The first one is the public hearing to present the budget that the town board has prepared. The second will be a special meeting of the town of Waukesha electors, and the third would be the town board, special town board meeting to discuss and potentially pass the 2015 budget that has been proposed. At this time, I'd like to call the public hearing to order and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Good evening, everybody. A couple of quick notes about the town's finances. Town's finances remain in excellent condition. The town continues to have no debt and cash reserves of nearly $1.9 million. The 2015 budget that has been proposed by the town board decreases total spending by $191,000, approximately 6%. And if approved as presented, your town tax levy, your taxes would be reduced by approximately 3.8%. At this time, I'm going to turn this over to Supervisor Fisher, who's prepared a PowerPoint presentation.
Thank you, Chairman Merrick. Just an organizational thing or two to get started here with the presentation. Some of the font size and text up there may be easier to read from the front of the room than it is from the back, and I know some people are at a bit of a side angle there, but I'll try to identify any of the highlight points and we'll verbalize and go through those. Just as an opening comment or two, I would like to make an acknowledgement to the people who have been involved and put time and effort into putting the proposed budget together. That would include Supervisors Radke, Wolf, and Supervisor Durr, Chairman Merrick, and Clerk Treasurer Nicholas. In addition to running our election last week, has been real busy putting together the budget for us. We've had a number of budget workshops and have something to present to you tonight. Briefly, the things that I'm going to go through when we get into this will be a bit about the budget process. I'm going to speak a little bit about revenues, expenditures, and give you just some summary information of activities by fund, a bit of history on tax levies, assessed values, and tax rates. Then we'll speak briefly about the limitations of the town's taxing authority, and then finally try to translate this into what this means for town residents and taxpayers. And again, as Chairman Merrick said, this is all a setup basically to public comments, which will follow as part of this public hearing, after which there will be the special town meeting of the electors to do various things, including setting the tax levy. So beginning with the budget process here, I'll just run through this very quickly. On the revenue side of it, what gets routinely done each year is to identify sources of revenue for 2015, estimating amounts of revenues, then comparing sources and amounts of revenue with actual amounts and sources of revenues for 2013. It's done likewise for 2014. We project budget revenues or estimated amounts of revenues as of the close of this year. The town is on a calendar. Fiscal year runs January 1st of each year through December 31st. Then with regard to expenditures up there, much the same thing is done. Information is solicited from different departments, heads, outside vendors with which we have contracts, and other sources. We estimate expenditures for 2015, compare them against 2013. look at the performance for 2014 in an attempt to craft a budget. The budget ends up, and what's going to be proposed tonight is a balanced budget. It does not, as it's going to be proposed, depend on taking monies from our general fund or cash reserves at all. It is balanced on other means. And this slide simply identifies the process for preparing the proposed budget and adopting the tax levy. The town board worked again on a consensus basis to make reasonable assumptions for revenues and expenditures for 2015. Again, proposing a balanced budget, and basically we need to levy a tax, which is going to be the responsibility of the electors who are gathered here tonight, to make up the difference between anticipated expenditures and anticipated revenues that come from sources other than taxes, and I'll show you the details of that. Then a public hearing is held, which is the very thing we're doing as we sit here tonight, at which citizens are given an opportunity to make comments, and then following this there will be a special meeting of the electors here, and the action which will be taken will be to adopt the tax levy for 2015. A couple of simple pie charts here that are before you with regard to revenues. The one on the left is the budget in effect for 2014, and there's a little qualifier to that. That is as amended throughout the year by the town board. So it's the budget that's in effect at this point in time, and we're 10 and a half months through the year, if you will. In 2015 is the proposed budget. I'm going to move through this fairly quickly. The dark, well, it's actually blue on the screen, purple on the projection up there on the right-hand side, is taxes as a source of revenue. And you can see that's in the range, it's a little over half, 54 to 55%. Charges for services is the light blue that's roughly between 9 o'clock and 12 o'clock on each one of those. I'm going to speak a little bit more. You will see that charges for services is going to decrease with the proposed budget, and the reason being there's a significant component of that. The town of Waukesha, along with other communities, beginning the 1st of next year, we'll go to single stream trash collection and recycling. Some of you may have read about that. The town has done some good things for the town taxpayers to realize some economies in that, and we'll talk about that a bit. That has a significant impact upon the budget process, the budget, and that will be reflected in people's tax bills, which regrettably are coming out soon. If you look at the revenues, then we're simply going to fly those things in. Taxes, with the budget we're proposing, the general tax levy there that's being proposed of $1,585,586 would be 3.83% than what has been taxed for this year at $1,648,687. So that would be a decrease of 3.83%. Intergovernmental sources of that, not a lot of change. We're projecting that to increase by about 2.5%. Regulation and compliance, that's building permits and the things alike, projecting that to be down about 2.5%. Here's the big one, charges for services as revenue. You can see we're projecting that to be down over $100,000, 13.77%, and that's largely, I'll talk a little bit more about that, changes in the special assessment you're going to get on your property tax bills for, I think it's called rubbish removal, not real artfully said, but it's trash collection. So we'll look at that. Interest in there, that looks like you're going to make a lot more in your money. We're up 91% on that. That's a small part of the budget. There's a slight, there's the interest one, and then I'm going to skip through here quickly to the next slide. This projects just in a little bit different way for revenues. We're not going to go through the detail of that, but you'll see the 2013 actual $3,012,000 and a bit more. 2014 in effect, The budget, we're looking at revenues of 3 million, just a little over 3 million, 3,004,000 for that part of it. And get back onto the other one here for a minute. That's right. Yeah, we'll skip that part of it. There you go, right there. And then this part over here, which reads as $3,023,000, is the 2014 year-end forecast. And the budget that's being proposed by the town board for your consideration is over there, is a total of $2,845,000 and some odd dollars for proposed revenues. Again, that's down well over $100,000 from both 2013 and 2014, largely because the town will be collecting less revenue for rubbish collection from all of us. Expenditures, a simple thing. There's pie charts here. You can see the components for those. General government is the one over here in kind of the purplish color. That's proposing actually to go up a bit, and some of the reason that this is bigger than it is over here, doing a couple little different things with accounting in terms of where things such as expenses for utilities take place. A bit of an aside, but some of you who have attended our regular town board meetings know that we are going to a different software accounting system. Clerk Treasurer Nicholas and her staff are going to be implementing that. We've kind of built this proposed budget on the old accounting system, but that will be implemented. We're not going to go into the details of that tonight, but good reason to do that, and the board approved that a number of months ago. Moving along, you'll see in the public safety component of it here, that's up a bit. Health and sanitation is up a bit in terms of, is down a bit in terms of expenditures from roughly 20.6% to about 16.7%. Again, that's largely about the cost of trash collection and recycling, which accounts for that. So we'll move on from there. In terms of expenditures, this is much the same thing, and I'll do it very quickly, fly these in as the pie chart that you just saw. General government, we're expecting a percentage increase of about 11%. That is largely because of changing of accounting procedures and where some of the things will be accounted for. Public safety, very little change. Health and sanitation, again, that's about the garbage collection. Highway and transportation, negligible change. Conservation, development. And one item here, I'm going to get just a drink of water, but if you look at the capital outlays part of it,
Ryan, as long as you're up, can you do anything about the dark spots on the screen up there? It's really hard to read.
the one in the upper left-hand corner.
Yeah, and the one in the lower right.
Does that help at all? Sorry. Okay. I want to spend a minute to talk about capital outlays. We currently have, at the town of Waukesha, and have had historically for years, a general fund. All of the money goes into and out of a general fund. There are committed funds within that general fund for capital expenditures and outlays. Chairman Merrick mentioned, there's a slide coming up a bit, there's about almost $2 million in cash reserves that the town has in its general fund, and we are debt free. That's something about which we all should be pleased. Of that, almost $2 million or $1.9 million, $866,000 of that is committed to capital expenditures. There's a bit of housekeeping that needs to be done on that to eliminate a few things, but it's probably north of $800,000 for capital expenditures. The budget here that the town board is proposing proposes to take $100,000 there in capital outlay for this year. That, in the board's vision, is earmarked for paying for radio upgrades. Chief Buchholz, who I think I may have seen here tonight, could explain to you the town has been looking for 4+ years at an upcoming radio upgrade. That will cost us about $320,000. Some of you have attended meetings. The town has set aside or committed $50,000 of that over the course of 4 years, a total of $200,000 for that radio upgrade. The town was hoping to get a grant for some or all of that. The town was not successful, so we will need to make up probably $120,000 of that. We're earmarking $100,000 of that out of next year's proposed budget. That bill will probably come due in the first quarter of next year. So the proposed budget has significantly less proposed spending for capital outlays. Moving ahead quickly here, importantly, that last line that just flew in there, debt service, all those columns are blank because the town of Waukesha has no debt. And that just shows you the totals on that. Looking at total decrease in expenditures of 6.3%. I'm not going to spend a lot of time with these because we're going to move along quickly, but if there's a want or need to come back to it, all the expenditures are broken into different categories. This one up here is called general government up here. You can see all those different categories, and this has got 2013 actuals, 2014 budget in effect, 2014 year-end forecast, 2015 proposed budget. That's summary information. We're going to move through that real quickly. So this is for general government. If you look at the one up here, there is public safety. The same kind of information is presented. There's one up here that is for public works, where all of that information is preceded or is presented. That's for snow plowing, and it's for road repairs and the like. There's one up here for health and sanitation. Again, if you look at this, the first line here, solid waste disposal and recycling, sounds a little bit better than the rubbish removal. I'd like to spend just a minute, and it's not the purpose of the meeting tonight, but Chairman Merrick and Supervisor Durr have led the charge for the town of Waukesha to negotiate a new contract. It will be with the current contractor who provides that service to the town of Waukesha. And if you look up here for 2013 actuals, or maybe even take 2014 budget in effect, we got $600,000 here, and I think Kathy looked at that today. There are 3,116 units to pick up, so that ends up being about $190, give or take, per household per year. That goes on, if you look at your tax bills, as a special assessment. And then there's a line item here called yard waste. Some of you might avail yourselves of the yard waste facility that we have at the town hall here to bring trees and brush and that type of thing to it. That has been budgeted loosely as $25,000 a year. This year, the new contract that has been negotiated, they could help me out, there are some minimal escalator provisions in that go out quite a number of years, so it's not just a single shot at it, but we are looking to spend in the range of $475,000 for the town of Waukesha for 2015 for both yard waste and your rubbish removal, or basically the home pickup. So that's roughly $150,000 less on that, which is good news for all of us. So that's health and sanitation. There's a slide here, conservation and development, which has the same level of detail. There's a handful of things in that. Summary activity by fund. This is on the single sheet that some of you might have picked up. I've reproduced it here. It's what was in the official publication. And if you work it across here, this number here is the estimated fund balance. Again, this is a general fund because we don't have a segregated capital fund, but we will have a capital fund and capital plan within a couple of months. That at the beginning of this year was $1,918,331. The revenues for 2014 pegged at the $3,004,163, expenditures of $3,037,116. Just a note here, I actually believe when the year is closed out, revenue will exceed expenditures. I think we'll be in the black for the year. To the extent that we are, that money reverts to the general fund. We're simply carrying some bigger numbers as an accounting procedure at this point in time, but I think almost assuredly this number will be less than that at the end of the year. If it is, this estimated fund balance will probably increase and will probably exceed the $1,918,331 beginning the year. And then we'll get into the details of this just momentarily. The proposed property tax levy, which the board has proposed for you for 2015, is $1,585,586. Couple more quick things. This is somewhat the same information. I'll just highlight it, but there's a history of tax levies, assessed values, and tax rates. If you go over to the left-hand side of the screen here, it starts with 2009, and it goes all the way through 2014. So these are all actuals, and then a separate column I'll talk about in just a minute in terms of allowable and proposed for 2015. If you look at this, the second line down here is assessed values, and Mr. Keene could speak to that in some detail, but that is the entire assessed value for the entire town of Waukesha. And you can see over on the left-hand side here, anywhere from $982 million and some odd dollars. And again, he could speak to that. 2011 was $988 million. 2012, 986, and then there's a precipitous drop into 2013 to $875 million. And I don't profess to completely know his business, but that was a complete, basically, devaluation of property at that point in time. So what happened is the mill rate, here commonly called the mill rate, the tax rate per $1,000 of assessed valuation, which was roughly at $1.66, $1.70, $1.65, $1.66, all of a sudden jumped to $1.88, and it's simply because the assessments were all devalued. People ended up much in the same place. But significantly, 2014 that we're into, the tax rate is $1.87 and 4/10, if you will. There are two things which you, the electors, will be able to consider tonight, or actually more than two. Speak just to a minute, but there is a state-imposed limit on the amount that we can tax ourselves, and we'll get into that quickly in a minute. This is calculated by the state of Wisconsin Department of Revenue. We could tax ourselves up to $1,664,955, and based on their computation of our total assessed value at this point in time, that would equate to a tax rate of 1.879, almost identical to the 1.874 from the current year. The proposed budget by the town board for your consideration would tax $1,585,586. That would reduce the tax rate, or what's commonly called the mill rate, to $1.79. Quickly, and I'm not going to read this in its entirety, but this is what speaks to the current status of state of Wisconsin law, which basically says the town is constrained in its ability to assess or levy taxes going forward. I think the loose translation, we're constrained to what we have taxed the previous year, plus whatever increment there might be for growth. That's a little loose, but for tonight's purposes, I think that's close enough. And two final slides, which really is kind of the conclusion. What does this mean to all of us as property owners or taxpayers in the town of Waukesha? And the assumption on this is a $200,000 property in the town of Waukesha. And again, Mr. Keene went through that with me. This is probably a little bit less than an average property, but it's a good thing to use as a benchmark. So you can see incremented from left to right here. We go from 2009 actuals up to the same 2015 allowable and proposed, and just running through those numbers. Then there's the line, this is the general tax, and then the second line is again what I think appears on our tax bills as rubbish removal. If you look even at the explanations down here, this double asterisk says that that is exclusive of the yard waste for 2004 or 2009 through 2014, and as I told you, the town board is recommending that be included, the yard waste in the special assessment for this year. So if you run across that, I mean, real quickly, 2009 going forward, if you owned a $200,000 property, moving from left to right, you would have paid $492.58 in 2009, a little over $511 in 2010, about $508 in 2012, $515 and some odd cents in 2012. I'm sorry, did I skip one? 2013, $562. 2014, for anybody who had that $200,000 property this year, when you got your tax bill about 11 months ago, you should have been paying to the town of Waukesha, not your total tax bill, just to the town of Waukesha, $573.84, which was based on rubbish removal and based on the tax. And then the considerations here for 2015, if you go to the maximum allowed by statute, the general tax would be $375.80, and this is incredibly close. We're estimating that your special assessment for rubbish removal will be $152 and some odd cents. So that would bring you to $528.24. That's what, some $45 less than you have paid to the town of Waukesha for this year. If you go to the recommended or the proposed budget by the town board, the $152.44 for the garbage stays there. That's no change, and everybody pays the same amount regardless of your property value. But your basic tax at $358 would take you down to $510.44. You'd be paying what, a little over $63 less in town tax in 2015, if that's what you chose to do, than 2014. And the last slide that I have does somewhat the same thing, but it's just for general information purposes. Again, the title on this says, if you have a property assessed at $200,000, the taxes that you have historically paid or that you will pay when you get your bills in the next month here, and the important thing is to the several taxing units, including the town of Waukesha. I think probably everybody in the room understands, but when you get your tax bill from the town of Waukesha, we're basically a collection agent, simplistically said, for these other taxing entities, the state, the county, WCTC, and the public school system. So we've left those segregated at the top. I mean, you can do your own math on that, but if you look at the rates on that, I mean, the school tax here in 2013, then you go to 2014 and was proposed. I mean, in 2014 here, the school tax was $9.19 per $1,000 of evaluation. Again, compare that to against the towns, which is $1.87. You're paying about 5 times in school tax what you're paying to the town. I think it's interesting. I'll wrap this up quickly, but if you look at WCTC, Waukesha County Technical College, that tax rate of roughly $1.33 per 1,000 is not a whole lot less. I mean, it's probably what, close to 3/4 of our $1.87. So, I mean, pretty much every time you pay $4 to the town of Waukesha, you're paying $3 to WCTC. That's just the way it works out. The county tax on that is $2.44. You are paying more on your tax bill to Waukesha County than you are to the town of Waukesha. That's just the way it works out. And then the last things here, and then I'm finished. 2015, Again, the first column, or the second one in from the left here, is the, and I think I have a, no, I have that correct. This is the proposed tax rate that the town board is recommending to you, which is that $1.79 per thousand. If you do that, the $358, I mean, that's simple math, the $200,000 property at $1.79 per thousand, you'll be paying $358 in town tax. And again, your garbage, we're projecting at about $150. This is putting it at $152.44. You'll pay $510.44. Just backing up real quickly, if you had the $200,000 home in the town of Waukesha this past year, you should have paid $3,192.76, and I think we've neglected, there's a couple of tax credits and so forth for a variety of things there. So I mean, you can do the math on that. Roughly a sixth of what you pay on your tax bill goes to the town of Waukesha. So with that, I thank you for your time, and I am finished.
Thank you, Supervisor Fisher. Is that you? Okay, as a reminder, notice was given that a public hearing on the 2015 proposed budget for the town of Waukesha, Wisconsin will be held on Tuesday, November 11th, 2014, beginning at 7 p.m. at Town Hall, West 250, South 3567 Center Road, Waukesha, Wisconsin. The proposed budget and details available for inspection at the town clerk's office from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. According to our town ordinances, the following procedures will be followed at the public hearing. Chairperson will read the notice of the hearing. The chair shall then call on those persons who wish to speak for the proposition, that being the proposed levy limit of $1,585,586. Each person wishing to speak for the proposition shall give his or her name and address. Each person speaking on behalf of the proposition shall be limited to a reasonable time as set by the board. The chairperson shall then call on those persons who wish to oppose the proposition. Each person wishing to speak in opposition to the proposition shall give his or her name and address and shall also be limited. And any person wishing to speak in rebuttal to any statements made may, with the permission of the chairperson, do so, provided, however, such rebuttal statement shall be limited to 3 minutes by any one individual. When the chair is satisfied in his discretion that the proposition has been heard, he or she shall announce that the fact of the hearing is concluded. Once again, I just want to make sure that everybody that's here has had an opportunity to sign the attendance sheet that's in the back, and that only town residents are allowed to vote or make motions. At this time, is there anybody on the board that would like to make a motion for reasonable time limits for tonight's hearing?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to set the reasonable time limit at 3 minutes.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And we'll open it up for comments, starting with those that would like to be in favor of the proposition. Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. Mike Borchert, West 231, South 5205, Hunters Hollow. My comments are for all the citizens in the town of Waukesha. Having attended majority of the town meetings for the last 2 years, I've seen a tremendous progress in the financial business that our board has conducted, and they've made a lot of improvements and are saving us a lot of money. That is an ongoing process. It doesn't stop. If you go to the meetings on a regular basis, there's always something coming up, and they're always trying to save us money. They've been following all the proper procedures for budget amendments and allocating funds before payment. The town of Waukesha residents have elected the current town board to do the everyday business for us. There are a few residents that may have different ideas on what the budget should be, but they are not on the board, and they don't see the everyday business that these gentlemen do. So it's my recommendation, or I encourage all the town residents to support the budget that is presented to us tonight and approve it. I think they've done a fantastic job. In the 24 years that I've lived in the town of Waukesha, this is by far the best board I've ever seen. And they are doing the most for the town residents in Waukesha. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Bill Robb, South 48, West 23720 Merlin Lane. I just want to thank all of you, as a taxpayer in the town, for the diligent work you've done to keep the budget where it is. It's no small task in this day and age to keep a tax levy at or below where it was. So once again, I want to thank you for your hard work.
Thank you. Anybody else? Going once? Going twice? Sure. Come on up to the microphone, please.
Angie Van Sock, South 51, West 25375 Glendale Road. This is a far different procedure than I've ever experienced at a town meeting in 20 or 25 years as far as limitations. How does one know before questions are asked and answered, which is usually a part of the public hearing, if one is for or against anything?
Well, if it's a procedure that you hadn't followed in the past, I don't know what to say about that, but I'm reading it directly out of our town code, and this is our ordinance on how to proceed with a public hearing.
From a legal standpoint, I'll answer the question.
Thank you.
And it is a difficult, when you try to follow the ordinance at a budget hearing like this, it's difficult. So what we've suggested, when the chairman and I discussed this earlier today, is that people should just use the opportunity to speak. And, whether you're speaking in favor or against, or you have questions, just use whichever opportunity you feel is the most. We're not going to cut anybody off. At the end, we have rebuttal. So if you have questions, please just feel free to come up and ask your questions. You may not know at this point whether you're pro or against, but we want everyone to have an opportunity to speak, and everyone will be given an opportunity to speak.
And what if the questions take more than 3 minutes because we have a 10-page document?
Well, the answer to that question is that your ordinance says that the board can set it. But that does not mean we won't give people a second opportunity to speak. I even reviewed the minutes from last year, which are made available to me today, and people were given more than one opportunity to speak. All we're asking is that courtesy is the first time you speak, you limit it to 3 minutes so that everyone will be given an opportunity to speak.
And is the board answering questions on specific issues in what the paperwork that they've provided to us?
If you have some questions, why don't you make us aware of your questions, and then we can move forward.
I just wanted to be sure I was allowed to do that. I'll do that in a moment then. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Joe Bansky, S32, W26341, Bob Elcourt. My question is with regard to count number 53000, Public Works. It appears that the board has chosen to conceal a number of accounts that were previously isolated within the budget. I'm wondering if the board could go through and maybe describe for us which accounts you've pulled in there, and perhaps there's a working document or something that describes how much you're setting aside for snowplow, how much you're setting aside for road repair, slag, those kinds of things, because it's just now a number that's just jammed together. It gives us no ability to evaluate it.
Sure, I'll answer that. First of all, nothing was concealed. The worksheets are wide open for anybody to see. Nothing was concealed, first of all. Snow removal is in there for $180,000 for labor. Road Road crack filling, slag, and paving is $175,000. In that number is the portalet for the park of $600. Town hall and grounds of $6,000 and highway and street of $4,500.
And is that all the categories, Mr. Chairman?
no,
Let's start
I'm-
right at the beginning. Maybe we
okay,
could run
yep.
through the whole. What the chairman is reading is per the state statute, the categories that are required to be given are as set forth in the public notice, and that's right out of the state statute. And so they have broken the budget worksheets into those categories, it's my understanding, and a request has been made to explain what is in the public works category. Is that correct? Okay. And so why don't we just read them from the beginning? Is that okay?
That's fine. Additionally, town hall of $7,000, highway of $21,000, salt procurement of $200,000, culverts of $37,000, ditch work of $7,000, road work of $5,000, and parks of $2,000. And that's the entirety of that.
Mr. Chairman, can I just make a real quick comment?
Yes.
2 comments. First of all, the board has not attempted to conceal anything. That said, I have some, looking for the right word, sympathy perhaps, but I hear the comment that you have made, leaving aside the concealment part of it, and I'm inclined to agree with you. I mean, when we actually put this into the new accounting software and everything, just my personal preference would be to see some breakdown on that, because I think it'll be easier to manage and understand.
And by the way, Supervisor Fisher, it will be. It is broken out in line item detail. Anybody else?
Is this for rebuttal too, or?
We can have rebuttals afterwards.
Well, I'm not sure what we're doing anyway, but I'm gonna go. Hi, I'm Wayne Krzyzanowski, West 254, South 4360, Pinnacle Lane. When I was a young teenager growing up in our Cudahy Tavern, I noticed some funny business going on across the street at Venus Ford Garage. It was nighttime and there were flashlights illuminating the garage. I thought, as a naive teenager, that it was strange for mechanics working so late at night using flashlights. The next morning, word was out that Venus Ford had been robbed of a lot of tools and machinery the night before. I didn't say anything because I only saw the flashlights and could not identify any of the thieves. Well, I stumbled onto something at the town hall yesterday and could not sleep last night. At 10 a.m. yesterday, my wife and I requested a copy of the detailed budget. We saw a number of questionable entries, such as on page 3, the clerk treasurer's salary being increased 12% from $110,000 to almost $130,000. The retirement figure being increased 33%, and their benefits increasing 10%. To me, these large increases need to be questioned. We got a call at 1:00 p.m. that the 2015 detailed proposed budget was in error and could be picked, and we could go and pick up a corrected copy if we wished. We went back and picked up the corrected copy. The entries I just mentioned had not been changed, but other entries in different areas had changed. For instance, on page 4, the fire department salary wages for the 10 a.m. report increased 9%, but the 1 p.m. version showed an increase of 3%. The 1 a.m. dues, memberships, and training increased 39%, but the 1 p.m. version showed an increase of 17%. When the total fire department budget was added up with other item changes, the 10 a.m. value increase was reported at 11%, but the 1 p.m. report only showed a final change of 0.1%. This being said, and considering all the other discrepancies, I feel that I am like the congressman voting for the Obamacare package when Nancy Pelosi said, "First approve it, then we'll see what's in it." With this knowledge, I suggest that the vote on the tax levy be tabled until these changes are clarified. I cannot vote to approve such a levy until all the line budget detailed proposals are confirmed and made transparent to all town citizens. Also, since the budget should reflect the levy, I, as a concerned citizen, do not understand why the 2015 line detail proposal cannot be put on the website 15 days before the meeting rather than being hit with it for our evaluations minutes before the citizen electorate vote on the levy. Thank
Well,
you.
let's address because you rattle off a lot of information, so let's address them one at a time.
Please.
The first one that you had was, I believe, on page 3, the clerk treasurer salaries and wages. Is that accurate?
Sure.
Okay. The increase is due to the fact that we bought the accounting in-house completely. We used to have a fellow named here named Rick Schubarth who did accounting for us. He's gone, that's done in-house now. Those funds were moved into that account, as well as we have an extra personnel in here for filing and so forth. That's the reason for the increase. No
You know the
clerk,
clarity-
excuse me, sir. No clerk, the clerk treasurer has not increased her salary as you indicated. That increase was due to the fact that we brought our accounting in-house. What was your next question, please?
The comment that I'm going to make on that is by you condensing all of these things, there is no clarity as to what you're all combining together.
Certainly there is. It's on the detail page. You can look at it.
Where's
You're
the
open to
detailed
ask a
page?
question. You can
Is
come
it
into
on the
town
internet?
hall. Sir, one at a time, please. The detail page is here at town hall. You can come into the town hall at any time and ask for that information. It's very clear.
Why can't it be put on your webpage?
That's a rhetorical question. Next question.
Do you have another question? You had several items that you were concerned about.
I, as a concerned citizen, think it should be put on the webpage so
Sir,
that we have
that's not
time to
the
address
question
it.
is, what were your other issues, please? You had several issues that you were concerned about.
Okay.
Please tell me what the other one is and we can clarify it for you.
Why were there changes made quickly to all of these things?
I'll answer that question. It wasn't quickly made. The budget summary that was published hasn't changed one dime. It's the same. There were some keystroke errors that were put in the detail page. Those were corrected, very simply. Do you have questions on specific line items that you'd like clarification on?
No, because I would love to budget my books the same way that you do too.
No,
Thank you for
sir,
your
this
time.
is the budget, and it hasn't changed one iota.
You're
So
right.
please don't
You can do
indicate, sir,
whatever you
please
want
let
with
me
that.
finish speaking. The budget hasn't changed one dime. So for you to insinuate that it has is simply not true, and we will not tolerate that. The budget is the budget, and it hasn't changed a dime. If there were keystroke errors, that's a whole nother issue. If you have questions on a keystroke error, please bring them to light, and we will address it right here and right now.
Do you have the report from yesterday morning at 10 o'clock?
The only changes on the report, I gave you a report before the fire department. The fire department EMS department was in there. I had given you one before. Then I realized I had given you that one out, so I called you and said that I've incorporated the fire and EMS in the proper column. And that's what you picked up.
Okay, there's errors throughout the entire report.
You'll have to point them out before you go and
Do you
tell.
wanna do that right
Mister,
now?
Sir, before you start insinuating that there are errors, please tell us what they are, and yes, we will look at them. No, one
Sir.
at a time.
Come up here and just give us a line item.
Well, tell us which one. We'll address it.
Tell you the truth, I'm so shaken, I can't think of how to phrase these questions. These are questions that could have been answered if these were put on the internet
Ask us
earlier.
now. Here we are.
I reserve that right for another time.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for inviting the public to ask questions and point out some things that may still need some work on keystroke errors. The first one is on the account 46330, income item, solid waste and recycling. You have January through September, a total of $49,438. I'd like to know where the other $500,000 that should have been collected as part of the taxes is accounted for.
What's your question, please?
My question is that on account 46330, you show in January through September receipts, should be income, this is an income category, $49,438. You collect for the waste on our tax bill. So you get from that from the county in January and I believe in August. All of that should have been collected. You are $500,000, give or take, shy.
You need to do a journal entry.
A journal entry.
A journal entry.
A journal
You're
entry.
very familiar with the journal entry. You know exactly what it is.
Wait, the question is, if I understand it, is the money currently in received taxes?
It is.
And costs, and it has to be
needs
transferred?
transferred into the.
So the money
line
is, the
item.
$500,000 is in currently in what line item, to answer the question for the citizen, if we know? Is it
I don't
tax
know
levies or received taxes?
I think it's called,
I think it's
Yes.
simply not in your spreadsheet. It
not
is
in the
probably in QuickBooks, but it hasn't been. If I may ask, this is a spreadsheet. This does not come directly from the financial statements. Is that correct? It wasn't imported.
the first portion was imported.
Well, then I have
portion
more of a
was-
concern, but I brought that to light since we've asked for specific things. My second question would be related to 51440. And I think everybody has these, so hopefully, I did them in order so it would be easy for everyone to follow because we had very little time to review it. 51440 is on page 3 of 7. And I'm wondering why the election expense has now been, the detail been hidden from view.
The election costs were pulled into the clerk treasurer's.
So when the answer was given by the chairman that the increase in clerk treasurer was due to bringing your financial statements in-house, that may have been part of it, but the larger part would have been that you no longer provide the detail for election expense and those dollars have been pulled into the clerk treasurer's account?
No, the detail is there.
Where's the detail?
The detail is in the detail worksheet that is available.
I have the detailed worksheet and it is not on it.
The detail is there in the detail worksheet that you obviously do not have, and those monies were pulled together into the clerk treasurer's budget. We are not micromanaging the way it was done in the past. For the past 3 budget cycles, we are going back to the way that it was done previously and the way that most every other town does it.
The election expense was part of the budgets going back well before my administration, so I'm not quite sure where that comment is coming from. But the election expense that has been listed independently is no longer on the detail account, which was provided to me yesterday at 3:30. So if there's been an updated number since then, it'd be great to have it. All right, next question is IT services, account number 51510. I'd like to know why that account has increased by almost 8%. That was negotiated this year by this board, that new contract.
We took out the, in the IT is not only the services of Gordon Flesh, it also is our services for our website. And in the past, the website was put into general government. And we put it in because it is, the website is IT. We put it in the same account.
And how much is that website administration annually?
We've got $250 for minutes on demand, $750 for revise, and Gordon Flesh is $13,464.
So there was an increase with Gordon Flesh over the previous company. I think that goes without saying. The next question is on 51600. Why are the town hall and grounds detail items hidden from view?
Now, first of all, I'm not going to accept any more hidden or.
What would
or
you like
any-
it- what would
it's
you
not
like it
hidden.
said?
It is
Okay.
combined.
It's combined with what? Where is it combined to?
There is nothing hidden. These items are combined. So please don't make any more references to
Well,
anything
they-
being hidden. Please let me finish. To
Okay.
anything being hidden or not transparent.
But if the information was there and is no longer there, how would the public, how do we view it if
The
it wasn't?
information is there. It is available on the detail. Ask the clerk. It is available from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Come into the town hall and ask, rather than making insinuations that something bad is going on.
I did ask, and this is what I received, and I'm asking questions based on the information received yesterday at 3:30.
Okay, the town hall and grounds
Mhm.
have been merged in with DPW, as the
What-
DPW department is the one that takes care of our
So the
Town hall and
detail, so it's been merged with what?
DPW,
And what account number is
I'm sorry.
DPW?
Public Works, I'm sorry, 53000, 53300.1 for salaries, FICA, and so on. down
That's
the line.
okay, so 53300 account. It's for everything town hall and grounds.
Yes.
Okay.
the Department of Public Works.
Okay. 51700 is no longer on the document. And where did that go? That is town hall sewer, no longer shown?
The sewer costs are in with the utilities.
And what's that number, please? Was that 51900?
51900.
And is that a new account?
That is a new account, yes.
And under utilities, what have you included there?
All of the We Energies, the Time Warner, the AT&T, and the sewer.
So those, the meters for, let's say, the fire department and the town hall are separately metered, and those were all individually into the area codes so that people could understand where the costs were. All of those have been pulled out of those other areas and put into one utilities instead of the separation?
That's correct, because our meters were not just the town fire department. The one meter here was part of the town hall as well as the fire department. There was a meter in the back in the DPW area for
I'm well
our,
aware.
Okay.
I'm well aware, and that's why that was separated. Not everybody.
Please
there-
let her finish her answers. Please continue.
Certainly.
So our breakup of the utilities were not exact. The same with Time Warner, we all share Time Warner in the building. So it made more sense to keep it as a utility than try to figure out how much the fire department was using, how much DPW, and how much the town hall.
I understand, thank you. 52300, why is the ambulance detail no longer available for view?
The area where the ambulance and the, actually ambulance or EMS service and fire department have been, it's one department, so it's been merged together in the same line item.
For what
So
reason?
it would be line 52200 is where both, and it's specific, it says fire and EMS departments.
I understand that does that, but the fire department software actually tracks the firefighters' work by their ambulance work versus their fire work. And in order to share revenues of ambulance runs with the expense of ambulance runs, you really need to have that information separated so that you know what your cost analysis is. There's really no way to review this if that information's not available.
This was reviewed with our fire chief before it was done.
I understand that, but you're responsible for the
I believe,
P&L.
ma'am, we'll leave those decisions up to the fire chief. He's the professional. I think he's more competent at making that decision than you are. So we'll leave him make those decisions.
52000, total public safety. Can someone provide the line items for the totals for that doesn't appear on the report?
What was your number, please?
52000.
Public safety, 52000.
Your total fire under,
Total public safety is what you're asking for.
Public
Is on
safety,
page
yes.
5.
that's correct.
It's,
That's
um,
actually page 4, unless you have a different version.
It's, no, the total is on, you're asking for a total of 52000, correct?
Total fire. Do you not have a total
No,
fire
total-
line?
Total public safety.
Well, perhaps you could look at under 52210, fire inspection and prevention. You have a total in your 2015 budget line of $554,799. That number stands alone. There are
That's
no-
correct. That's correct. That was done so then the board could see what the fire department itself, both the fire EMS department and the fire inspection and prevention was for this year when they were putting the budget together. The total public safety item, which is on page 5, is the complete amount is the 52000,
In
which
other words,
is
it was
$908,199.
In other words, it was broken out for comparison's sake only.
But only on one line item, not on the rest of the 7. So you're not able to compare the others.
We were able to compare.
But this document is also for the public. And so I'm just pointing out that that information wasn't available to us.
That
This-
information is available to you. That is simply not true.
It wasn't
All of the
available
Ma'am,
on
let
this-
me finish speaking. All of the information that is available to us is available to the public from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. in the clerk's office. All you need to do is come in, and you do not need to make false insinuations about anything being hidden or non-transparent.
Angie, when it comes to the budget last year,
Yes.
or when you look at the budget preparation last year, that fire line wasn't on there at all.
Okay.
And so we were just doing it to help with comparison when we were doing the fire. It was only totaled at the public safety.
I appreciate that, thank you. 53000, Public Works. That number is now a lump sum number for the 2015 budget of $770,000 and 22 for change. That combines, I believe, 7 different accounts, actually. And when you talk about transparency, this is probably my biggest question in the entire document. No longer transparent is the amount that it costs us to run our DPW, because that number, and really
Excuse
I'd
me,
like
ma'am,
to
I'm
be
going to cut you
able.
off because that's simply false. It is absolutely transparent. It's in the number, $770,000 and $770 and $22. It is available for you to see between the hours of 8 and 4 p.m. at the town hall. Ask the clerk, and you will be provided with a breakout detail of what those numbers are. Very simple. And it is as per our budget. This is what we are required by state law to provide you, and that's what we have done so.
And nothing more.
No, ma'am, you can have all the detail you want.
Yeah, this is the time and place for
You
it.
can
and
have
this-
all the detail you want. It is available between 8 and 4 p.m. If you had questions, perhaps you should have done that instead of wasting everybody else's time that's here tonight.
Oh, everybody's time's being wasted? I didn't realize that. Thank you.
Well, the question is, what are the 7 numbers that went into the 770,022? Would somebody please answer?
I-
the question?
I'll
We've
answer.
I
we've
have,
already read that off.
That was your
I'll read it again if you like.
No, I want more information than you've provided, and to make the point that you are making the point that everything needs to be transparent and is. And in your financial statements, you track and DPW costs $130-some thousand, okay? The snow and ice removal in 2013 was $320,000. You have culvert installation, ditching, crack filling of almost $100,000, and almost $200,000 in road repairs. Without providing that detail, we have no idea how many dollars you spent in any of those categories. We don't know if you spent money on road repairs or not.
That's not true. That detail is available in the clerk's office between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. any time you choose to have it. Additionally, at the end of each month, there will be a detailed financial sheet that looks like this that has all of those breakouts. You're trying to find something nefarious where nothing nefarious exists.
Why isn't it on here then? If that's your plan, why have you removed that information from your work copies and provided this consolidated list to us?
Because that is the way that it is done in most other towns around us. This is the budget, not that ridiculous sheet of paper with everything broken out to the point where we had to know and do a budget amendment to buy more pencils or erasers. It was ridiculous, and it has come to an end. I'm sorry that's not the way that you choose to budget, but that's the way that this board in its entirety has chosen to budget.
Yes, we budgeted with detail, that's correct. But you're mistaken on their statutes.
Ma'am, what you did in the past is of no interest. We are here tonight to set the levy for the 2015 budget.
I certainly understand that, but that levy includes the taxpayers understanding where the money is going. And you have not given us a report as to how much you have spent in snow plowing last year, or salt last year,
That's
or
simply
road
incorrect.
repairs
That's
next year.
not true. That is in the financial statement that's available to you. It has been made available every month this year. It is right here in my hand, and what you are saying is absolutely false and not accurate.
Then why isn't it on the report that has been given for our review? How can we ask you a question? Do you know that this number, $770,000, represents 28% of our entire budget? 28% of our entire budget has no detail. And you're talking about transparency.
No, you have to stop lying, ma'am. It has all of the detail. It is on the worksheet. We have told you what goes into that number. You have to stop lying and saying that it's not available. The detail is available.
How much did you spend on road repairs in 2014?
Can you pull it up, please, Madam Clerk?
Crack filling? We spent $22,753.06 on crack filling,
Thank you. And what was the budget for that?
$25,000.
Okay.
And the road repairs we just got our Payne and Dolan in, so that's not on here, but it's $47,915.30 is what we paid at this point. We had $130,740 budgeting.
But some of those bills for this current year have not come in yet, or
That's
have not
correct.
been paid yet.
Have not been paid yet.
And do we anticipate that we'll hit our total number?
I'm sorry.
Will we hit our total number expenditure?
Will come in under the total number.
Okay,
expended.
thank you.
Yes.
What have we spent on snow and ice removal?
We spent $224,592.53 so far.
And what is
We
our budget?
budgeted for $393,765.
And what are you budgeting in your 2015 budget for snow and ice removal?
We've already gone through that. Do we need to go through it again?
Just the total number, please.
The 380,000.
380. And given the chairman's comments, I'm anticipating that financial statements will still be provided with all of this detail as to progress payments and where we are. This is just an anomaly to be on this particular document shown this way?
No. The new, go ahead.
We're in the process of transferring over from the QuickBooks over to Workhorse. We know that when we get into Workhorse, everything will be in much more detail than because we'll be looking at salt and snow and things like that as project items. So although it's under Public Works, it will have a project code for it. So if I needed to find out exactly how much we spent in snowplow or snow removal, I would be able to bring that up by project code.
And we have that in QuickBooks now, and that's why I'm surprised that this information isn't appearing on this report, because all that detail is available to you in your financial statements.
It's right here on the financial statement, ma'am. It's available
I'd be
between
happy to
8
get a
and
copy
4
of that.
at the town hall, any day you choose to come in here during the week.
I know, but
Please
this is,
do so.
Can we give others an opportunity to speak?
I think that would be prudent. Do you have anything further?
I do. It's been said on your public hearing report that you're reducing the total expenditures by 6%. But it's not noted that that is not against the original budget. Your inflated budget, based on amendments, is at $3.3 million. But the budget that was approved by this group last year was at $2.9 million. So you actually are comparing your decrease to an inflated number over which we approved the levy last year that you did by budget amendment.
No. We are decreasing spending 6% over spending from 2014, cut and dry, and that's the end of the story. And you're not going to play any numbers games and twist what this board has done.
In 2013 and 2012 and 2011, total expenditures were less than what you have right now, even with the legal fees that we were paying. You are now charging us more than that time. Where is the savings from the money that we were supposed to save
Ma'am,
by legal fees?
That is simply not true. We are not paying more in taxes. Please look at the budget. We have proposed to reduce the tax levy to $1,585,586 from a tax levy of $1,648,000 last year. I don't know where you got your math skills from, but if you look at $1,600,000 and $1,585,000, $1,585,000 is lower. And your tax bill, you will benefit from this just as everybody else in this room. Your tax bill will also go down.
But you had to take $32,000 from our savings account in order to balance your budget with the amendments that you did during the course of 2014. So
No.
you were not able to live within your means.
I'm not going to let you speak falsehoods. What we did was we took $33,000 in order to procure additional salt last year during a very harsh winter from our capital, from the funds that we have sitting in our general fund. That's what it's there for.
Oh, that's what, but we didn't do that. You know, we lived
don't,
within our
ma'am.
means.
I don't think anybody in this room cares what you did.
Okay, nobody cares that the general fund is being taken.
No, the
In
general
20
fund is, no, you're not going to say things that aren't true. We took
Fund
33, no ma'am,
balance.
you will not speak over me. We took $33,000 to procure extra salt during a very harsh winter last year. I don't think that there's any resident in this room that would prefer that our roads remain unsalted and unsafe for them to drive on.
I would agree, but in a
Okay.
$3 million budget, there was probably $33,000 somewhere that you could have found, perhaps in legal. But the correct answer is in 2012, $2.7 million was actually spent, $2.8 million in 2013. You have raised the amount that you're spending. You can play games with what you're doing in the numbers, but numbers don't lie.
No, ma'am. We are reducing the tax levy from $1,648,000 in 2014 to $1,585,000 in 2015. You are correct, numbers don't lie.
Millette Krzyżanowski, West 254, South 4360, Pin Oak Lane. I have a couple of questions. I don't know if they can be answered, but I'm getting more confused as the time goes on. Anyway, capital outlays was reduced by $94,000. I don't understand why. And then Mr. Fisher made a comment that there's going to be a fund in a couple of months. You're going to figure this out later, was what I heard during the presentation.
Well,
Maybe
hold on.
I heard
Let's
wrong.
answer your first question.
All right.
Yes, capital spending has been reduced. Part of that was, a big chunk of that, $38,000 in capital spending was for the septic repair. That's this year, that's been handled. We don't need to repair
The
it
septic
again.
is
Excuse me,
repaired?
ma'am.
Okay.
It's under contract. We don't have to address it again next year. It's already done. It's $38,000. We don't need to pay for it twice. I don't
Okay,
think
good.
I don't think any of the taxpayers want to pay for anything twice.
Oh, I definitely
All right.
not.
So,
May I
so in
respond,
that,
Mr. Merrick?
yes.
When you're finished, go ahead.
So
Respond.
in that regard, then we've reduced it by 50,000. We have nearly $2 million sitting in cash. Much of that has been earmarked for capital budgets. Do you have a suggestion that would you prefer that we raise taxes?
No.
In order to fund some other capital project that you would like us to undertake?
No, I was just questioning the reduction of capital because it was my understanding we were tucking away a little bit of money each year to help pay for like future, like say a $500,000 fire truck or something, so you didn't have to come up with that all in one year. You were like putting money away a little at a time to save for future major purchases.
We are indeed. As a matter of fact, for that fund, we have $140,000 set aside for a future tender or ambulance, whichever the fire chief deems is the first one that we replaced. Now that we have got our spending under control, we will continue to do so and put monies away for those future expenses. We also have significant funds that are set aside and earmarked for purchase of DPW vehicles.
Okay, great, and that's part of that $1.8 million in the general fund, right?
Yes,
May
All
I
right, thank
respond,
you.
Mr. Chairman?
yes, please.
Sure. You raised a question, Ms. Krzyzewski. Facts, okay? We currently have a general fund, okay? That general fund has funds in it which have been previously committed by action, really, of the electors of the town of Waukesha to capital outlays. There's a spreadsheet for that, copy of which I'm holding up. It is showing currently a capital outlay summary that has $866,289. That's not a separate designated fund. That's commingled, if you will, into the general fund,
Okay.
but is committed to these purposes. There's a couple of housekeeping things in here that have been completed that need to be taken off that list, so it'll drop that number a bit. Don't hang on that as absolute, okay?
Okay,
There's better management of that can and will be done. But the goal of the town board, and I think I can speak for the town board, and this is on recommendation, we hire professionals. As you well know, you attend most of our
Oh,
board
yes.
meetings, auditors and so forth. We need to have a capital fund. Most municipalities have a separate capital fund, and we need to have a detailed capital plan. We've got a capital plan of sorts, but it's something that needs to be established, and we will work with professionals such as including Mr. Macy and our auditors and so forth to get that accomplished. And then it's something that needs to be routinely and dutifully managed. We need probably annually, if you look at what's done in other municipalities or how they handle capital funds, it needs to be subjected to an annual review. We will necessarily have requests that come forward from the fire department, from public works people. Those requests may be initiated by members of the town board. They may be suggestions or requests that come forth from citizens such as you who come to address us during citizens' comments. Here's a need. You need to make capital provisions for it. We need to look at major road improvements. This town is not going to get by for years and years and years to come by simply doing crack filling, and I'm not poo-pooing that. That's a good thing to do, but simply putting some slag on, filling some cracks and stuff. Some of you may live on roads which are going to have to be rebuilt. That's very expensive kind of stuff. So prudent planning by this town mandates that we come up with a capital plan. Those things need to have citizen comment and input, and a capital fund. So the representation is now a general fund. We don't have a capital fund. I think the board is committed to doing that. I would encourage everybody in the town to understand that and support that. The town will be in a better place if we do some good planning and financial management.
I look
Thank you.
forward to that, and I agree with that completely. And that's why I was questioning not having additional capital outlays for 2015.
What-
My next question. You have listed that interest income will increase by almost $10,000. You're going to double your interest income according to this budget proposal.
Yes.
Where, I don't know a bank or I don't know of investments that are going to guarantee me to double my interest income. And you also have a little bit less money because you had to take it for the road salt payment. So your general fund is slightly smaller than last year, but you're going to have double the interest. I don't understand that, sorry.
Is
I
that a
can-
question?
Yes, that's the question. Where
Why
are you
don't-
getting it
Why
from?
don't we answer it for you?
Thank you.
I have put together a new credit card program. The county has been doing this for years. Many municipalities have been doing it for years. All the money that we spend paying our garbage, and our regular everyday things we can get money back on using this credit card system. And so the money in that, we are going to get some of that money back from the bank, and that's where that interest comes in. That's a bank and interest money. I put it right in that. We expect the credit card company looking over all of our funds, and we are bringing that to the board on Thursday. They expect us to bring in 15,000. I was being very generous and just putting in 10,000.
Okay, well, I got to find out about that credit card.
Well, it's no different than, for instance, I have a GM credit card. I buy everything on my GM credit card, and I am able to reap the rewards of that of several $1,000s a year.
Well, I
It's,
have a Disney,
you
I have a
can get
Disney
that-
card, but they only give me 1%, and every 5 years I can go to Disney World for free.
I'd get a GM card, it's 5%.
All right, anyway.
Mr. Chairman, can I
Anyway,
just-
that's
can I
not,
just give
that's
you
not
a
relevant to
response
this.
to one other thing. During the presentation, and this remains to be seen, we're sitting on November 11th today, but I believe I indicated to you in the presentation, those estimates or projections of year-end expenditures that you saw, I believe those are significantly above what they will actually end up being, okay? I firmly believe we will be underspent for the year and in the black. The absolute truth and reality of that won't be known for a couple of months, but to suggest that, or to infer, and I indicated to you, yes, we presented those numbers, but that the level of expense, actual year-end when 2014 closes out, will be as it is that we have, and I'm going to say conservatively projected. I think we're overestimating those expenditures, and we will end up significantly in the black. That's my belief, and time will tell.
Okay, and then I just have one last question about your presentation. When you showed on the thing with the yard waste and the solid waste collection, and you put 0 for yard waste because you said they were combined now?
I
Sure,
can answer that.
let's
So,
let me have Supervisor Dort take that.
me jump
He
into
can-
that.
he's the best
Okay,
to answer.
my question is yard waste going to be picked up at home too now?
No.
Well, it
Nothing.
just looked that way from, I
Let me
misunderstood.
explain. Previous budgets accounted for the rubbish removal as a line item on your property tax. And this year, that was allocated at $600,000. Then in the general budget, not allocated as part of rubbish removal, but just rolled into the general tax levy, was an additional $25,000 to run the yard waste in the back. With the new contract, it was advantageous for us to do that all at one time. So the $152 that Supervisor Fisher spoke to, that will be a line item for rubbish removal, includes the $25,000 that was previously part of the tax levy. So there is no substantial change other than we're going to single-stream recycling. You're going to get a 96-gallon recycling container instead of the 18-gallon recycling container. But the yard waste place is staying open. It's just that the line item in the general fund of $25,000 is now part of the line item rubbish removal that comes on your property taxes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
First of all, I would like to thank everyone who I know has worked so very hard on this budget. I know budgets take a long time to put together, and I know they are long and tedious work. Secondly,
I think we should get, although we know who you are, name and address.
Betty Paget, South 57 West 22641, Woodside Court, Waukesha, Wisconsin.
Thank you.
A lady here mentioned elections. I know some of you had to wait a long time in election time. I'm sorry for that. The other thing is if you are concerned about the cost of elections, we are in great need of poll workers. If you know of somebody or some person or yourself who is interested, it doesn't pay a lot, but it is a gratifying experience. The other thing is the garbage pickup I don't quite understand yet. I know we're getting the bigger bins, and I know that we're going to have once a week or every other week garbage pickup. Does that also mean our regular garbage will be picked up every other week also?
No, not at all. Your regular garbage pickup is going to remain on the same day that it is currently. You're going to keep the same bin that you have, and your regular solid waste goes into there. You're going to get a second similar container, a different color, and that will contain all of your recyclables. So all of your paper, all your plastic, all your bottles, cardboard, all goes into there. The theory behind the larger container is that you'll put more recyclables in there, less will go to the landfills, and so our costs at the landfill go down, and the tonnage that goes to the joint recycling facility between Milwaukee and Waukesha counties will go up, and our rebates, we get a rebate at the end of the year, that will increase because our tonnage there will be larger. So your recyclables will be picked up every other week, and your regular garbage still every week.
Will we still have once a month large pickup,
Yes,
just as we do now?
yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
We got something perfect.
Evening.
Hi, Brian Grace Alney, S44 West 25700, Mariana Drive. So if I heard tonight correctly, we fixed the septic?
It
This
has
year?
not been fixed. We are under contract to repair the septic. We have a solution, we have an engineer, a drawing, we have
The
a
contract's been
price.
awarded.
Okay, so that'll fix
It
it.
just hasn't started yet.
Okay, do we still need to pump it 7 times a year?
No, what's gonna happen is we're gonna connect to the city sewer. We're gonna remain on our well and connect to the city sewer and pump our waste into
We
the
are.
city sewer.
Okay, so in your budget line here, shouldn't you add some money in for 2015 for that sewer cost?
Yes.
To the city, but it says 0.
We did add, in the utilities, we added $2,000 for that city cost.
Okay, so you transfer 58300
And
to
put
the-
it
to
right
this new
into-
fund, to 51900, is that correct?
That's correct, that's correct. with
Okay,
the
so it's
rest of
gonna
the
cost us
utilities.
$40,000 a year from here on in?
No, 2,000.
2,000
That's for the whole year, not per
for
month.
the year.
So what is the rest of that?
That's all of our, that's Time Warner, Electric.
Oh, I see, that's all.
It's
your-
all
That's all our utilities.
So it's $200 a month.
Two-
What is the
2,000.
capital expense for the road repair to draw that sewer line down? Is that in here too?
The amount for the sewer connection is all in the 2014 budget, not in the
Well, what-
2015.
So that 38,000 is
Yes.
all inclusive? They're gonna rip the road up, they
They
put
don't-
a new
yeah.
pipe in, everything's in there?
Yeah, they don't have to rip the road up, but
She said she's estimated to pay that this year. That's not in the 20, did I hear you correctly?
Yeah.
This year, yeah.
It's the
Right.
2014.
but
So
the,
it's not in the 40,000. Because it's.
They're very similar, it's 38,000 whatever,
I didn't know that, I don't have the details.
and 39,000 for the other,
sir,
so.
the contractor does not have to tear up the road because there's a manhole right before that connects
Oh.
right into the sewer. So the only work that they'll be doing is coming through our parking lot, and out and around the fire
Okay.
department now.
And is there any expense in here for closing up the septic that you have right now? Putting sand in there and, or is
That's-
that part of this whole
That's part of the
proposal?
bid, that's part of the
So
bid that we received.
38,000 for this, closing it up and
It's
getting a
less
new
than that.
sewer
What was
line
the-
in?
What was the bid amount, please? Was it 20?
It's 28,
Yeah.
about 28,000.
Okay, and that should solve the problem from here
That's
on in?
correct.
Okay,
Yes.
That's all I had, thanks.
Thanks. Anybody else?
Carrie Wolf, S51W25447, Glendale Road, Waukesha. For as many times as been said that all this information was available between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m., I think it could have eliminated a ton of confusion if it would have been set forth right here for us to all see at the meeting tonight, rather than everyone in this room individually coming in to see that information. I can only assume why people would think, I don't want to use the hidden word, but it wasn't supplied. I think it should have been. It would have been good professional practice.
Thank you.
Sandy Hom, West 230, South 3827, Milky Way Road. Brian, thank you for your presentation. I thought it was interesting tonight that you made the presentation, particularly after the episodes of last year. Last year at this meeting that's about to come up, I made a motion to hold the levy at the previous year's level. And you said that you couldn't support that, and that you supported taxing the maximum. And even though that sounded not so good, politically maybe, I understood what that was about with Act 20 and everything. And as it was explained tonight, you know, that you can't recoup that necessarily. So my question is, for you, and you said last year we should tax the maximum. We were talking about $5,000. And you said, because we've got needs to deal with roads and septic systems and that type of thing, as a matter of principle, I support taxing the maximum we can, and went on. And you would vote in opposition to my motion. And so I'm confused why tonight that principle seems to be changed or gone, and we are looking at an $80,000 difference between what's being proposed and what the state would allow us to tax. And I'm thinking, and again, nobody wants to spend money on legal and nobody wants high taxes, but we're walking away from that 80. We can't start there next year, and that 80 could go toward a fire truck or any number of other things that the town needs that you just got done saying we need in a capital fund. So are you in support of the proposed levy of 1,585, which is below last year's maximum, next year's maximum of 1,664 is my first question.
Mr. Hom, this entire board is in support of that. We have collaborated together and proposed a budget that is responsible, saves the taxpayers money, and lowers the tax levy, as well as total spending. If you are in support of raising all of these folks' taxes, please tell us, and you can make a motion to raise their taxes.
I'm suggesting that Mr. Fisher made that argument, among others.
Mr. Hom?
And I'm wondering why the principle that was so elucidated last year is now gone.
Last year was last year, Mr. Hom. We are here to talk about the levy for 2015. Are you in support of raising taxes for all the residents? If you are, you can make that motion and we'll vote on it.
Right, I can. And so obviously you're going to speak for Mr. Fisher. I'm sorry that he's unable to speak for himself.
He speaks fine, Mr. Hom, but
Let
I
me-
think
well, he
if you
doesn't
want to
seem to
raise...
be able to.
Mr.
I'd
Hom,
like to ask-
Mr. Hom, you will not speak over me or you can find your seat. Now,
I'd like to
if
ask-
you are interested in, we are here tonight to address the tax levy. All of these folks have heard all of this ridiculous nonsense about hidden fees and hidden numbers and all this nonsense. The fact is that we are reducing spending $191,000, 6%. We have reduced the recycling fees that we pay in the solid waste pickup by nearly 25%. We have budgeted in excess of the historic norms for snow and ice control, paving, and road maintenance. We have, in just 3 budget cycles, decreased the amount that we have spent on attorneys by 73%. In 2012, this town spent nearly $300,000 on attorneys. In 2013, we reduced that amount to $120,000. In 2014, that number went down, and we hope to finish at about $80,000, and we've budgeted $60,000 for next year. We are here to address the budget levy, and we don't, last year was last year. Do you have something productive to add about this budget and this levy without attacking Mr. Fisher any further? If you want to continue to attack him, Mr. Ham, you can find your seat.
Mr. Marek, I wasn't attacking him.
Yes, sir,
I
you are.
simply wanted, no, I wasn't. And you don't get to characterize what I'm doing. And you called everybody in this room that you didn't like ridiculous. But if anyone says anything you're not fond of, you talk over them. I would like to ask the clerk how much money we spent last year pumping the septic system.
At this point, we have $12.95.
$12.95, okay. And next year, we're planning to spend $2,000 for the septic with the city. Is that correct? That's what we're budgeting?
We have $4,000 budgeted currently.
$4,000 budgeted for next year for
No,
the sewer.
This year. This year's budget is $4,000.
No, I'm asking for the city sewer, we're budgeting for next year $2,000.
That's correct.
And this year, so far, we've spent $12.90?
$12.95 is what we have
$12.95.
through, currently, yes.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else?
Marlon Nemeth. In the bulletin, you got my name spelled wrong. You got Marylln. It's the other way around. W252S4485 Meadowview Drive. Question, are you still keeping Wednesdays and the weekend garbage dump here at this location?
Yes, nothing changes.
Okay, and the bin for recycling that's going to be used every 2 weeks, what size was that again?
That's a 96-gallon cart.
So all these older people in the town, where do you put these bins that are going to be such a large size and get them from your driveway out to the road for the dump? Thank you.
Well, I'll answer that question, but if you ask a question, I'll answer it. How do you take the 96-gallon cart that you currently have? How do the people that are older than you do it currently? Well, they're going to do the same thing with the 96-gallon recyclable cart.
Just as a point of the contract.
Why is it ridiculous? You're doing the same thing. You're
Just as a
simply going
point
to
of
do
the
it twice.
contract, to clarify, there is a program that we currently use with the town that provides for what's called drive-up service for town residents who are not able to wheel their cart down to the driveway. My understanding is that we have about 32 residents in that program right now. That is at the discretion of the town. So, and that is provided to those residents at no cost. The current contract allows for up to 65 residents to be in that program. So there is room with an aging population and all the other things that we encounter for that to increase over time. So there is a program in place. In addition to that, there is a paid-for drive-up service that people can subscribe to if they so choose and they don't have a legitimate disability to carry their cart down to the corner. It's just simply paid directly to the provider. It's about $130 or $40 a year. I don't subscribe to it. It's not going to change substantially in the new contract. So there are provisions. The thought process is that the new recyclable container is exactly the same size as your garbage container currently is. It's going from no wheels to wheels. I'm personally looking forward to it just because it will be wheeled. because I take my garbage down before I go to work in the morning in my work clothes, and I consistently get all over it. Okay, so I'm looking forward to having the 2 wheels on my 96-gallon cart. And if you don't fill it up, it's just like now. You know, I don't take my recyclables down every single week, and I don't take my garbage down every single week. So if you don't fill it up, you don't fill it up, and that will be collected every other collection period as opposed to every week.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Lori Longtime, W271S3581 Oak Knoll Drive, Waukesha. I don't have a question yet, so you don't have to bother to answer it yet. But I would just like to say that I haven't been to a town meeting in a while, but I'm very concerned with the atmosphere in here tonight. I just would like to remind the board that you serve us, not the other way around. We don't need to be lectured on what you will and will not tolerate. No one has been loud or angry or accusatory, but I think we do have a right to ask questions and have our questions answered so that we can understand this budget and what thought process was put into it, what decisions were made, why they were made. This is our money. This is our money that you are spending, and we have every right to ask a lot of detailed questions about how it's being spent and why it's being spent that way. It's a very simple aspect of democracy. And I know you and Angie don't get along and agree on things, and that's okay, but she has every right to stand up here as a citizen and ask those questions. And every time that somebody at this microphone says something you don't agree with, you're all over it like, I will not tolerate these lies, and you can't attack Mr. Fisher. These are not attacks. Questions are not attacks. They're questions. And, this whole demeanor is very unprofessional and childish. And you ran on a platform of you were going to end the bickering. Well, everybody's off the board that quote-unquote bickered with you, and now you're bickering with the residents. So I'd like that to stop, and I think maybe you can do it. So that's what I have to say.
Lori?
Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Lori?
Thank you.
Lori? Over here.
Sorry.
I didn't catch your street. Could you just give me your street again? Just a street name.
Oak Knoll Drive.
Oh, no. Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Mike Borchert. Just last comments before we start voting here and that. I appreciate the intelligent questions we had this evening. And if there are people here this evening that are really concerned about our finances in the town, come to the meetings on a regular basis. You can't come to one meeting a year and find out everything that's going on and all the work and hours they put in to a budget and expect the whole thing to be explained in a matter of hours. They have to condense it and give us the basics of it. And anybody that wants to set up the budget for the town, file some papers, run for office next election, and see if you get elected. Then you can get involved with the details of the town budget. But like I said before, the town residents elected this board, and we need to put our faith and trust in them. They are working for us. The costs are going down, the tax levy is going down. I see nothing for anybody to complain about. And for people to get up here and nitpick about stuff that is immaterial and can't see the trees from the forest is ridiculous. So trust these guys here and work with them. And come to the meetings if you're really that concerned about where your money's going. Because then you will find out every month what's going on, and the decisions they make for spending our money. Thank you.
Thank you.
Milette Krzyżanowski, West 254, South 4360, Pin Oak Lane. One thing I forgot to mention, I was at Town Hall twice yesterday requesting these budget details. Not once was I told that I could sit there and review every line item detail. I was handed a copy of what's on the table here tonight that all of you had a copy of too. And then I got a phone call saying, oh, I gave you an incorrect copy, and now please come back and get a corrected copy. And it's the same copy as what were given tonight. Not once was I told during 2 phone calls and 2 visits to Town Hall that I could sit here and review the details. So I was unaware that this was available to me, and probably a lot of people in the audience also were unaware that they need to come to Town Hall to find out these details. The second thing I want to say is that by us asking questions and being concerned about where and how our taxpayer money is being spent, I think it's part of my job as being a responsible citizen to do this. Do any of you remember the Milwaukee County pension plan? That got passed, and it was just exorbitant because none of the taxpayers paid attention to where their tax money was going, and the people on the Milwaukee County board assumed that nobody cared anyway, and so they pulled the rug pulled the wool over the eyes of the Milwaukee County taxpayers who are still paying exorbitant pensions because it got passed without any taxpayer paying attention. So even if I'm the only taxpayer who wants to pay attention to what our town board is doing, these are trusted servants, yes, but they have a fiduciary responsibility to be stewards of our tax dollars. This is our money, not theirs. And when some people, not you personally, but politicians in general, can spend other people's money, they aren't always careful about how they spend their money. So we're just trying to ask questions to make sure that it's being spent carefully, and our questions were answered, and I appreciate that. And just, if you remember the election last Tuesday, the whole entire state of Wisconsin electorate voted 80% to keep the transportation fund, and not allow the state to raid transportation funds to balance their budget. And so we need to keep an eye, all government is local. So we need to keep an eye on our local government, and that's all we're doing. We're not doing this, or at least personally, I'm not doing it to pick on anybody and accuse them of not doing their job. I appreciate the job that they're doing, but it's my job to make sure that they do their job. And yes, I do come to most of the town board meetings, and unless maybe some of you aren't aware, you can now watch them on YouTube. They do live streaming. And the last town board meeting, I wasn't here in person, but I watched it on YouTube, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Mr. Chairman, can I just make one comment? And it's good to see as many people in the room tonight as there are, because I think fundamentally that means people care. That's a good thing. We may care about different things. I'm a little bit concerned about some of the inflamed rhetoric tonight, but if you want to look constructively and moving forward, each and every member of this board, past boards and future boards, go to the town's website. I think there's some good constructive comments about information, that more information could be put on the website. But one of the things that's on there is the email address and the phone number of every elected official in the town here. I'm not complaining, but I didn't receive a single call with a question, a comment, a single email. Do, as Mr. Borchard said, please come to the town board meetings, either during the meetings, before or after, approach people and talk to them. This is a good forum to do it in, but you don't have to wait the whole year and save up questions or have emotions and stuff that need to run on you. Give people a call. Names, addresses, emails are there. I think I can speak for all members of the board. We would welcome your comments, your criticisms, your questions, your input. Thank you.
Thank you. Ma'am? We need to close the meeting first, and at this time I'd like to close the public hearing and call a special town meeting of the electors to order. Please remember that motions and voting are done by residents, and please do have signed in the back on the attendance sheet. And so this meeting is called to order. Notice was given that on Tuesday, November 11th, 2014, immediately following the public hearing on the 2015 proposed budget, a special town meeting of the electors will be called pursuant to section 60.12 sub 1 sub C of the Wisconsin statutes. Is there a motion to approve the proposed levy limit?
I make a motion to approve the levy for tonight.
Second?
I second it.
What's your name, sir?
Jim Shaw.
Any discussion?
What is the levy?
The levy is the proposed levy is $1,585,586. Mill rate is 1.79. Any other questions or discussion? Please approach the microphone.
Where does that mill rate appear on your document? Should be on page 7, but I'm confused by the presentation. Page 7 of your document. You have 2013, 2013, 2014, two 2013s, a 2014. I don't see a 2015.
Thank you. It's 2013, 2014, and 2015, it should be, the
So,
headings. It's a typo.
so the mill rate, so 2013, but there's different numbers under each category. You have 2013, then you have 1,643,000, and the next one, 1,648,000. And then you have the same number twice under 2013 with the same mill rate. That couldn't be right. Those mill rates were not the same during those years. Are you
Got
saying?
13, 14, and 15.
No.
Uh,
Can we
The,
confidently say
yeah.
that 2014 is truly 2015? Is that correct, the rightmost column?
That's correct.
And so the amount that you're asking us for is $1,585,586?
That's correct.
And the total assessed is $885,960,300
That's correct.
with 1.7897.
That's correct.
Thank you.
And what was the last number? The 1 point?
1.7897.
Is what?
The mill rate.
I want to remind everyone, the motion is to establish the tax levy at $1,585,586. That's what the statute says the electorate sets. I've had communities who have done something different and had to go through the whole thing over again because somebody went back and checked the math and the mill rate changed by a slight amount. I'm not recommending you do that. The statute says, and the motion that was made was to set the levy at $1,585,586, correct?
Yes.
That's the motion. I don't want to confuse anybody. We understand all the other numbers that were presented are important, but the motion is to establish the levy, and that's what section 60.10 of the Wisconsin statute authorizes the electorate to do at this meeting. So just so there's no confusion on that, because I've had towns have to go back and redo it. It's not fun to get your tax bills 2 or 3 weeks late. Trust me.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Is there an increase of $10 million of 2015 property tax assessment? If I understand that correctly, wasn't that last number?
Yes, Marty, is that accurate? It basically roughly 10 million from 875 to 885?
I believe so, yes. I don't have my reports with me.
Okay, so that's future people moving into this area?
Well, that's going to be inclusive of whatever changes in 2013 to 2014.
Oh, I thought that was.
New construction.
Can I just jump in for a minute? I believe the numbers and in the presentation, the total assessed value actuals for 2013, $875,125,900. 2014 actuals, $879,634,200, and for this point going forward, $885,960,300. So it would appear to me in the last year that's roughly million, if I've got that correctly. In the last 2 years, 10 million, I think is the correct number.
January 1st of the year.
No,
Is that correct or no? This is the actual
no.
assessed value.
The actual assessed value as of January 1st of 2014, and Mr. Keene can correct me, but this is based on January 1st of 2014, the assessed value for the entire town was $885,960,300. Is that correct?
I believe that may be the equalized value.
Okay, equalized value.
Assessment and equalized are two different numbers.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Did that answer your question?
Well, the reason I brought that up, the 179 that we're talking about, is dividing that number by the property value, is that correct?
By the
So
levy.
if I look at that last column, then that's incorrect, you're saying it's not $10 million additional for 2015?
Well, first we have to be very careful. The values are established as of January 1st of a year. We have no idea what the value is going to be in 2015. That won't be established until the border review in May or later of 2015. You start with the values of January 1st, 2014, and that's what the bills are based on. I just want to clarify that one thing, and that is determined at the border review. Now, I don't know where we got this number, because we have manufacturing assessments, we have we have all kinds of assessments. So that's why I don't like to do the math at these meetings.
I understand. So the number we're concerned about is that 1,500,000 that you're talking about? That's the big
Yes.
number.
That's the number we
Yes.
have to-
Any further discussion? Seeing none, let's vote to adopt the motion to adopt the proposed levy limit of $1,585,586. In favor, please raise your hands. And should we stand?
No, I mean, you're going to be able to take a quick count, and we'll count them. Okay. So let's see what the numbers are. They're not even close.
What do you?
Gotta keep them up.
No, these are the yeses.
These are yeses. These are yeses, please.
It's 36 every time. So I don't think let's see if it's going to be close.
Okay.
And the nose, please. And the motion has passed. Pardon? Sure. Sure. Those that would abstain? I got 4. Motion carries. On to approve the 2015 highway expenditures to exceed $5,000 per road mile pursuant to section 82.03 sub 1 sub A of the Wisconsin statutes. We need a motion? Yes, ma'am? And a second? Ms. Graves. All in favor, please raise your hands. Oh, I'm sorry, discussion? To approve the highway expenditures to exceed $5,000 per road mile. No?
Well, it depends on how you want it. The motion is to authorize the town board to exceed the amount, and that gives them the discretion on how much they want to spend. That's the way this motion was made. Now, we can clarify that motion if you want further.
Could
Go ahead.
we provide a little, perhaps, background on why this is necessary from a legal point of view?
Yes, there's a state statute in the state of Wisconsin that towns cannot spend more than $5,000 without your permission. That's just a law in the state of Wisconsin, believe it or not. And so you'll find this on every town agenda for the special electorate meeting. That's pursuant to Chapter 82, Section 82.2A specifically, I believe. And,
But how does it tie into the road mile issue?
well, I'm not, we have X amount of roads, and we can expend, if we have, how many miles of roads approximately do we have?
67?
67 times 5 is all you'd be able to spend. And this budget anticipates spending more than that, and they're asking for permission to spend more than that. It's still limited to the levy amount, but we have some communities, I'm just being honest with you, some communities say you can spend what's in the budget for roads. Some say you can spend what you feel is appropriate, which to exceed the 5,000, which this motion does, okay? Or you can set a different amount. I mean, that it's your meeting. You get to decide how specific a motion you want. The motion that's made authorizes them to spend more than the 5,000. It does not cap what they can spend.
Correct.
While they look that up, I got to tell you, part of the problem with this is some boards include snow plowing, some only put crack filling, some put road ditches, and it gets very complicated. Does the salt go in there? Is that part of road maintenance or not? And the Towns Association and the law doesn't give a lot of guidance on that, unfortunately. So we have to take the highest amount, which is probably the whole, pretty much public, I mean, does the public works staff go into, you know, and how much of the staff salary goes into it? Do we have an answer to the question?
Yes, and that's primarily because it's inclusive of road repairs and plowing. And when you add our road repairs and our plowing, we clearly go over the 300 and whatever Ms. Van Sock quoted. I take her at her number.
Further discussion? All in favor, please raise your hands. And let's see the noes. You've got 4 noes. Motion carries.
We have to do number one.
And lastly,
Number one on your agenda.
yep. And lastly, we need to approve the minutes from the last meeting of December 3rd, 2013. Is there a motion? And a second? Discussion? All in favor, please raise your hands. And opposed? And the motion carries. And we need lastly, are there any other public comments? And a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second?
I need your name, sir.
Bob Mabel.
Oh, sorry.
All in favor? Motion carries. We're adjourned, and we'll move on to the special town board meeting, which we will call to order immediately unless anybody needs a short break.
No, let's go.
I'd like to call a meeting of the special town board meeting to order at 9:04 Tuesday, November 11th, 2014. Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
Chairman Merrick.
Present.
Supervisor Radke. Here. Supervisor Wolf. Here. Supervisor Fisher.
Here.
Supervisor Durr.
Here.
And also present and in attendance are Town Attorney Macy and Assessor Keene. And we are here to approve the 2015 town budget. And we need a motion.
I make a motion to approve the 2015 budget as published in the proposed, notice of public hearing for the proposed 2015 budget.
Second? Discussion?
Yeah, I will go along with the amounts, but after hearing what went on tonight, and I did receive a few phone calls, not many, but a few, of people making a comment of not seeing where all the individual amounts are coming from so they can track where their money is spent. I will not support the way it's being presented.
Well, I think that's unfortunate, Supervisor Wolf. Why didn't you bring this up during the many budget workshops we had?
I think from what I recall, it was brought up by 2 of us, and that's all the farther it went.
Don't recall that conversation.
And I'm pretty sure that I was the second one that you referred to. Am I the second one you referred to? And we did go back to make sure that we as a board agreed with what the increases were. And then after extensive discussion on the issue, my understanding was that we as a board agreed that this was how it would be presented. Because I was the second one to question it, because when we went through the process, I needed to solidify in my mind that I was making it, I recall the phrase being apples to apples comparisons. And then I was satisfied, and then we moved on.
Thank you.
Okay, the way I understood it was we were gonna publish it as the main breakdown, but then the major breakdown was gonna be included, the way I understood it.
Thank you. Anything else? The roll call vote, Madam Clerk?
Chairman Merrick?
Yes.
Supervisor Fisher?
Yes.
Supervisor Durr?
Yes.
Supervisor Wolf?
No.
Supervisor Bradke?
Motion carries. And we'll need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you for coming tonight.
I try to settle them down, but I just can't, you know. I wish you would have answered the question. I wanted you to answer the question because I think you would have done a great job. No, the question was, and I gotta be honest with you, I asked that question to John in the back. I said, you take a big risk when you don't go to the maximum that you can go to. And that's all that he said is last year you recommended going to the max, and this year you didn't. Which